Hi, I'm Jessica Behal with Great Rivers Regional System for Addiction Care, and we are continuing our This Is My Story series. And today we have Shasta with us, and she reached out and said that she would love to tell her story. And so I am so thankful that you're joining us today, and I'm actually going to go ahead and turn it over to you to tell your story.
Awesome. Thank you for having me. I'm Shasta Bell. I'm in long-term recovery. I celebrated 10 years on October 28th. Um, I'm just grateful for my recovery and I'm a little bit nervous, but I'm going to move back and I hope I don't get emotional, but I got tissues if I do. um, I had a great childhood. My mom was a um my mom wasn't a single mom, but she was a young mom. And so she already had me whenever she met my dad. So my dad adopted me. And I'm super, super grateful that he was there for my mom and me. So I had a great childhood, big family, grandparents, those were probably like the best years of my life. I um love being with my family. I love being with my whole family. So we've had some tension lately. So those were the best years of my life. I remember 4th of July. I remember camping at the beach. However, with my dad's side of the family, when there was a family get together, we always knew there was going to be alcohol. It was just part of it. They didn't get rowdy and break the law, but my grandmother was an alcoholic. And um, so I kind of then started associating alcohol with having fun. But on my mom's side of the family, there was none of that at all. So we'd have family get togethers and they were kind of dry. And then we'd go to my dad's side of the family and things got fun and rowdy. And it was like that. I remember my parents playing, and my dad had a big, big family. And I remember playing trivia. They would play trivia and sit around the table. And then every Christmas Eve, we would go to my dad's families. So I miss those times. I got really close to my grandfather when I was in prison, and he's no longer here. So around the age of 7, my aunt got with an older guy, and he was abusive. And that's kind of when things started changing for me, and I started to feel kind of disconnected from my family. Um, just being 7 and not knowing what was going on, not feeling protected. So there was that, and so that I had a couple rough years. And so when I got the age of 12, I was just out of control, skipping school. My parents couldn't handle me, so they sent me to live with my grandmother. And at that time, my grandfather was dying of cancer, and I watched all of that. And that is hard on a 12, 13-year-old psyche. Um, I remember locking the door at night because he was kind of really medicated, and I was afraid that he was going to come in the room and hurt me. My grandma told me the next day he would never, and I don't think he would have, but it was just scary for me. And I remember one time the phone rang and he took the phone. He didn't understand what was going on, and he's like, pray with me, pray with me, pray to these gods. And it was just really scary. Now, after he got used to being on the morphine, that all kind of calmed down, and he knew when he was hallucinating, and he could tell us, I know that the cat's not sitting on your head, but I could see it. A really big turning point in my life was my grandfather was sick, and I remember just being angry. I don't remember even what for now. I know it was probably something that I was doing, like not doing my schoolwork, who knows. Um, and I remember walking out of the room. I remember not hugging him, and I remember leaving there knowing that that was the last time I was probably ever going to see him. But I don't know why it didn't matter to me. The phone rang the next morning, and he had passed away. Um, I remember when the phone rang, I knew that that was the call my mom was getting. I remember hearing my mom crying and saying that she had just bought him a cane because he had like this really good week before he passed. So it was, we knew it was coming, but it was really off guard. So my grandmother, he passed away, and it was just me and my grandmother. And again, I watched all that. I was just in a really bad spot emotionally. Um, there's like a lot of like trauma going on that I don't want to get into, but um, like my aunt and her husband lived close by, and just him being around always made me feel uncomfortable and unprotected. And I thought that my whole family knew about this, but I found out years later they really didn't. So, I mean, that like wore on me a lot. I definitely felt like my life was sacrificed for her kids' life. However, I've came to terms with all of that, but that's how I felt at the time and for many years. So I dropped out of high school. Um, I There were always like from a very young age, because I was abused as a child, like I like did self-abuse and had sex early, and I mean just like lots of guys, lots of sex, and lots of alcohol around the age of I I I don't know, 14. Sorry. I remember making purple Jesus. My parents had alcohol. I remember me and my girlfriend in like 8th or ninth grade, maybe even seventh. It must have been ninth because I was back. I left my grandmother's. My parents wanted me to come back home and stay because my grandmother was getting remarried, and she got married really fast. And I think that me and my grandmother have always been like super close because my mom had me young. So I wanted to be there for her, but all at the same time, I knew that wasn't a good idea. I knew she was getting married too fast. And so my parents brought me back here at home to live. And that, like, again, my life was like all disruptive. But that being said, I really don't know what the right decision would have been for them to make. So I went to ninth grade in school. And after that, I was running around with older people and going to bars. Um, and the next 2 or 3 years, definitely a lot of drinking, going to bars. I had a fake ID. Some people didn't even know I was like 16, 17, getting in there. Like the ABC came once when I was 19, and the bartender like fell out of her chair because I told her because I didn't want her to get in trouble. So, just being around older people, so I grew up really fast. And when I was um 19, I started running around with the person I married, my ex-husband, and I got kicked out of my mom's house. And getting kicked out of my mom's house and putting that separation between me and my family really I was already a high school dropout, so I already really didn't have a good foundation, but I always worked from the time I got out of high school because there was nobody else gonna take care of me. I knew my mom's rules, like you had to be in school. So during that little bit of time, I was able to get my CNA license, and I did that for a while. And I remember running around with a girl that I was in school, and I remember taking a Lortab, and that was a game changer. I really liked that feeling. Everything that ever felt in my whole life went away, and I could like make what I thought were smart decisions. They probably weren't, but I thought they were. And then I didn't do pain pills for a lot of years, but because I was running around with older people, I saw lots of cocaine. Um, I mean, I was young too. I mean, it's crazy when I think about it now. These people were, I thought were my friends. Like, I'm like, if they would have been my friends, they would have called my mom and got me out of that situation. So I got with my husband and things, I started, like, him and I together was super bad. Like, we started, it was like, first it was drinking, and then it was like the psychedelic drugs and the ecstasy and the Molly, and then like the cocaine, and then like the crack. And so it was just like a garbage disposal full of a mess. But when Oxycontin came along, that, like, I always did pain pills from probably 19ish. Like, if I didn't have them, I felt awful. I always walked around and said I was sick all the time. If you talk to anybody that I worked with from those times, they'll say Shasta was always sick when we were around. I don't know if they knew, but they had to know something was off. And he went to school. I don't know how we got through that. Like, I hate to use the word functioning drug addicts, but there was a time we were functioning. I but we weren't ever like truly taking care of ourselves. We were like either living with my family or in like property my family owned or property that his family owned. So Oxycontin came along, and I knew these people that were robbing a pharmacy, and it was like Oxycontin and Valiums everywhere. And that's when my disease took another level. And then after, like, those things were expensive. So somebody introduced me to heroin one night. I don't even remember who. And we started shooting up, and things went downhill really fast. After that, I let the drug dealers move into my house. Um, they were selling drugs out of my house, and my ex-husband lost his job, and we just had like no way. By this time, I wasn't working. Like, I was just kind of like staying home, dealing with that all stuff that I had brought into our house. And it was just like we didn't after he lost his job, we didn't have any means. Um, so his aunt lived in New York, and she said that we could come up there and stay, which I'm so grateful that um they welcomed us into our home after anything, after everything. Everybody here in West Virginia were completely done with us. Like, my mom couldn't even stand to look at me. I remember we lived up in New York and came home for a weekend, and just, to come home and visit, but that's not what we did. And we stayed for about 10 days. While we were in New York, we had a car accident, and we blew through all that money that he had got for the car accident. So we went back up there, and we were like, okay, we're going to try to do this the right way. But at the same time, we didn't even really know. We knew a little bit about addiction and withdrawal, but we didn't know about anything for sure about recovery. Definitely didn't know all the unhealthy patterns that we were building and communication styles and everything else. But we wanted to work and be functioning. So up there, it's like really easy to get a job. You go to a temp service, they call you if the factory's hiring. So we got a job like immediately, and he got promoted. I got promoted. Things were going like relatively well. And like I saw the police coming to my work one day. And like I thought somebody was getting arrested for child support. I have no idea why I thought that, but that's what I thought. But then I saw them walk towards us, and as the guy was walking towards us, I saw across this thing it said DEA, and I instantly knew they were coming for us. So I looked at my husband and I was like, I think we're getting arrested, and that's what happened. So we spent a couple days in Syracuse County Regional Jail, or whatever they call it up there, the federal holding facility, and um they processed us, and the agents pretty much told us that we were coming back on Con Air, and that the plane leaves once a week, and that we it left yesterday. So I thought that I was staying in jail for a week, and so I was just like, plan B, we have to get out of here. So I called my family. Of course, they're always there. Um, and my family was on the phone, and I think my husband's family was too, on the phone constantly, wanted to know where we were, wanted to know why they hadn't heard from us. And West Virginia was saying that we were fugitives and that we had fled West Virginia, which really was not the case. We moved to New York to we didn't even know we had charges down here. So West Virginia was like telling New York that we had to come back in custody, um, which I think they just wanted to scare us. But um, the lawyer that we got up there was like, they're not a flight risk. So long story short, the judge let us report back on our own recognizance, and we were released that day. And that was definitely my higher power, because I just don't know if I would have survived that whole week there. That was like a big culture shock. Um, so we did a year of pretrial, and we went to prison. And while I was in prison, I started hearing words like social anxiety, boundaries, recovery. Started hearing words like enmeshment and abuse. And I just, I didn't want to live like that anymore. I knew I was going to die, or I knew I was going to come back there. So while I was in prison, I did what I was supposed to do. I got picked to go out in the community and talk to high school kids about um, drugs and what brought me there. I saw a lot of things in prison. A lot of people go through a lot of things that I wouldn't wish on anybody, because it's a very lonely place when you are going through something hard like the loss of a loved one. I was pregnant when I got there and had a miscarriage, so I had to deal with that by myself, and that it's just a lot when you don't know anybody and you're going through something even different than that. So I did all that successfully. I came home. I did 3 years of paper successfully. Everything was great. Um, but I wasn't working a program of like long of recovery at all. So slowly my demons started to creep in. And I remember like working as a waitress, and all my coworkers were having a drink, and I remember my disease telling me like, they're normal, they're drinking, you can drink. And it was off to the races from that um point on. For a couple years I drank a lot. I drank at work. I I did drugs then, but I wasn't like out looking for them. Like my drug of choice at that time was alcohol. Thankful I never got a DUI. I remember going to work, like waking up out of a blackout, standing there working. I don't even know how I drove there. Um, and um, on Halloween, like Halloween weekend, I lost my job for drinking at work, and I just like couldn't live like that anymore. I had went back to school, and because I was drinking, I had to withdraw from school, and I had a couple years. I don't want to say clean because I still wasn't like working a program, so I was still just kind of like a dry drunk. I probably didn't start like working a program of recovery until I was like 3 years clean. I was just like white knuckling it. And I don't think if I would have got pregnant, I don't think I would have, I don't think I'd be sitting in this chair. I just knew like I didn't want him to know that side of me. And so that's when I started like getting involved in A AA and um like getting to know like working on myself and using the tools that I learned in treatment to apply them to my life and to my recovery program. And I learned to stay like open minded, and I learned forgiveness, which um like I just I just love my parents, and I know that if they could have looked into a crystal ball and seen my future, I know they would have done something else. And that like gives me great peace. So today I work for Help for West Virginia. I'm a peer recovery coach. I've been doing this. It'll be 8 years in 20. It'll be 8 years in October. I started doing this in 2013. Sorry. I went back to school and got my bachelor's degree. I got picked to from the Almond Foundation. I got picked for one of their scholarships, and I got to work with recovery coach Aaron. I'm gonna like butcher his name, but it starts with a K. I got to work with him, which was really awesome to like I had never worked with a recovery coach. I had only been the recovery coach. So it was cool to like see that side of it. And I'm really grateful for the things that he brought into my life. And now I dropped out of school in ninth grade. And when I was working on my GED in prison, they told me that people that dropped out of school at that time never went back to school, hardly ever, and even got their GED, let alone getting a bachelor's degree. But today I'm in grad school, and I have a semester left in grad school. I work with the local drug courts who they're so supportive of my recovery. I'm grateful for them. I'm just like grateful today what my life has brought me. I never could have done it without everybody in my WE program, everybody that I work with, my parents. I'm just grateful. And I think that's all. There's so much more, but I don't want to hold you.
Congratulations on your on having a semester left. That is huge. That is amazing. Wow. Congratulations.
Thank
I
you.
just applied for grad school and I'm like freaking out. So congratulations. That's awesome.
You'll be great. You'll be fine.
That's awesome. That's wonderful. Congratulations. That is wow. That is wonderful. That really is. And just to know how much you fought to get to where you are today. I love you're just very upbeat and I
Thank
mean
you.
We met what 45 minutes ago, right before I pushed record on this, and we got to talk for about 15 minutes before we started this, and it was like I had known you my whole life. And so I just really appreciate you taking the time today to share your story, to just be genuine to who you are. I mean, really and truly, it just radiates from you.
Thank you.
You just have such a positive outlook, and I am just so thankful to be able to be the platform that you used today to tell your story. So thank you,
Thank,
thank you, thank you again. Congratulations
thank
on
you.
almost getting there. You're almost
Yes.
there. That's so exciting.
I
Um,
know.
and so, woohoo! But we are just so thankful again for you doing this with us. And if you are watching this today and you would like to tell your story, we would love for you to reach out. We would love to be able to be that platform for you to be able to tell your story. So maybe you know someone, maybe you or you know someone who has a story that they would like to tell. Please, please, please reach out to us at Great Rivers. We would love to be able to allow you to tell your story in our This Is My Story series. Shasta, again, thank you so much for
Thank
joining
you.
us today. And be on the lookout in the weeks to come for more of our This Is My Story series.
Thank you.